Who owns our eyes and who profits from them? That's the question my researcher Jalen Darika and I asked ourselves at the beginning of last year. And what we discovered is well worth a talk today. First part of this answer is the advertising sector, whose revenue from optical attention reached 1.14 trillion in 2025. If we were to look at only the digital side of that revenue, that's 400 billion, targeted at 6 billion people, 12 billion of eyes, non-stop targeted. The second part of the answer is our urban environment, which is largely controlled by a small group of urban outdoor operators who decides which images we're going to see on our way to school and turning them into revenue. That sector reached 43 billion last year. I don't think I need to explain that there's not such thing as an ad blocker for the physical streets. You can't just opt out of seeing those commercial images. Then you have all the large global corporations, like a Coca-Cola or a McDonald's, who are industrial visual producers in pushing commercial images destined to maintain brand visibilities for eyes non-stop to look at them. As an example, Coca-Cola spends every single year 5.3 billion for eyes to watch its ads. You also have all the political actors, the governments, who are in constant need of images for their visual strategic communications, whether that's for election campaigns, whether that's to push a political narrative. Images are core in doing so. If we look at the US in 2024, 10 billion was spent for visual political advertising purposes only. And then you got people like I, who contribute to the creator economy through imagery, and that is due to reach 480 billion by 2027. I could go on, but there's only so many times I can tell you the word billion when mentioning how valuable your eyes are. As you can see, your eyes have already been sold, whether that's through the platform which generate that distribution, whether that's through the large corporation that purchase images. Your access to your visual environment, whether that's physical or digital, is non-stop monetized. Visibility has become the best commercial assets. And that was the vision, once upon a time, over 100 years ago, of someone called Edward Bernays in his book, Modern Propaganda. And I've brought it with me because it's incredible how core is so images to be for modern propaganda. So I'm going to read you a couple of extracts. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. And then he continues specifically on the role of imagery, saying, modern propaganda is a consistent, enduring effort to create or shape images to influence the relations of the public to the enterprise, an idea, or a group. And I would like to argue that we went beyond the wildest dream of Edward Bernays because we now consume 10,000 images every single day. So the visual economics have never had such a bright future. Now, you may have spotted that I come from the world of art, so I wanted to compare the investment going into visual advertising infrastructure as opposed to the one going into the arts and culture. I looked at the US. 45 billion went into visual advertising infrastructure, like building new billboards in 2025, as opposed to less than $1 billion in arts and culture. These visual decisions are never neutral. Over time, they reshape what we see in our visual environment, currently making it structurally imbalanced, but also encouraging visual pollution and visual inequalities. This may be the first time that you hear the term visual inequalities, so I have a number that I found truly shocking for you to actually understand what I mean by visual inequalities. 4 out of 5 billboards, whether you are in London, Mumbai, or New York, are in poor areas. 4 out of 5 billboards. That means that the poorer you are, the more profit is made from your eyes. And that's because the higher the frequency, the higher the volume of commercial images, the higher the impression, the dream of the advertising revenue, meaning that you can extract more revenue from this population, making those populations more profitable. And that is why we believe that visual economics are one of the most unequal modern economy today. And that's specifically what we're working really hard to reverse for the last few years. We've published a paper with UCL and Holly Norman last year looking at how do we build an inclusive visual environment, one that is more democratic, one that is more representative of the communities they should actually serve in the first place. The business models works, there are many of them, the economics do too, and therefore I want to run you through a few of the examples that shows that it can be successful, our visual world can ultimately be substantially fairer. The first one is Sao Paulo in 2007. They banned most of their outdoor advertising. Now that's 15,000 billboards, 300,000 storefronts. They also welcome for artists and creatives to completely reimagine the city, which created a huge boom. Now, the part that's interesting is that the advertising sector started to filing lawsuits. They said crime will rise, that streets will go darker. Of course, none of that happened. By 2011, 70% of respondents said that they had drastically improved their city. The second example, our new type of internet brother, like Brave, where here, if you opt in to look at commercial images, you are compensated on your optical attention, showing here that your optical attention can be a compensated asset. You also have French municipalities like Lyon and Paris with patched an outdoor advertising tax, which is then redistributed for the well-being of the people who work and live there. So to conclude, our eyes are one of the most valuable assets. They are worth trillions, but we don't see a penny. Sao Paulo showed us that cities can choose differently. Brave shows us that Internet Brother can compensate for our optical attention. And municipalities like Lyon and Paris showed us that tax can be taken when it's charges to the community. The business models work, the economics works. The part that's missing is us deciding that actually our eyes belong to us. Because our optical attention is not just valuable, it's ours. Thank you.